Hello, welcome back. In this video I'm gonna start to look at how to create a button. But the first thing I wanted to do here is to fix up a little bug I found. So if I hit play and pick up a cube, you will see that it's making a little dance whenever I touch anything. Which is not so good. And the reason for that is since I changed the logic with the movers here to use a grab sphere on the motion controller here, you can see I pass in the grab sphere in the grab actor. The old logic was working off the motion controller, this one. And you can see I don't have anything connected up to the grab sphere yet. So that is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to drag this out and say promote to variable and call it grab sphere. So I did something similar with the mover, I think. Pretty sure I did. So I'm setting it here on event pickup, and then on event drop I make sure to clear it again. Like that. And then I also need to change a few places. So I'm just going to make a find references. So and just replace most of the locations where I have it. So this here is okay. I can still use this one. It's no big deal. Also up here, if the motion control is valid, it's completely okay. But this stuff here, I should technically, when I grab a texture, I should technically attach it to the grab sphere, I think. Here with the grab physics handle, I should drive the location where I grab it from the location of the grab sphere. And this stuff here with the drop, and this is just doing a check drop if lost connection. I don't really think I'm going to use this right now. But technically it needed to use the grab sphere location as well. And yeah, well, let's just change this one also. Is help by me is completely okay. And then we have the get relative pickup transform and get rel pickup transform. So these two macros here, of course, they need to also work off the grab sphere as well. So change them out like that. So now when I make a find references, you can see I only have a few references back left. So that should be it. And while I'm at it, because I want to stress test some things, I'm actually, because this stuff here makes sure that I drop things if, you know, if I keep pulling and it's the item that I'm holding is stuck in some geometry and I drop the object. So I'm thinking for now I'm just gonna disconnect that stuff here because I, yeah, as mentioned, want to stress test a few things here later on. So now when I grab this box, you can see now it doesn't do that weird dance whenever I touch something, but I still have collision. And once I don't have collision, I have the one-to-one movement back again, which seems to be very nice. Okay, so let's switch to the topic that I really wanted to talk about, and that is the button. So I have my little class diagram here. So we have the mover and we have the physics mover and we have a physical slider right now. What we don't have yet is a physical return slider, or a means of checking a return state or anything like that. And that's what we're going to start to build in this video here. Because the way I wanted a button to work is, and instead of grabbing like we do with the sliders and the rotators, you kind of expect your hand to touch a button. And there's a little exception to that. So for example, if we are remote controlling a menu, then you would kind of point with a laser pointer at something, and then you would pull your trigger. That would be the most natural thing to do, I think. At least that's how I'm going to design this. So I'm going to have two cases, one if it's remote control and one if it's physically being touched with the controller or the hand. So I'm going to focus on the physical interaction, and I may or may not return to how to implement this in a menu setup of some kind, but depends on how much time I have, because yeah, doing all these videos does take a long time, and also want to progress with some more interesting stuff. So it's, you know, kind of a hard balance to find. Anyway, enough of the talk. We should do this physical return slider. So we need to make a child blueprint of the physical slider. And you may think, why do I not put it in the physical slider to begin with? Well, I like to have a lot of flexibility in this setup. So let's say I have a button, I press that button with my finger, and that button can maybe be a toggle button. So once I press it down, it's going to go down to the maximum, and then it's going to return to a slightly depressed state. Depressed? Can you say that? Down pressed state. And once I press it again, it's going to go to maximum, and it's going to return to the minimum state. So it's like did it. I hope you get what I mean. Because making sounds makes it that much more clear, of course. Anyway, I hope you get the point. So I'm going to add a few things in here. And oh, by the way, if I just switch back to this again, you could implement or add most of the stuff on the physical return slider all the way here. But the thing is, you can see I only have the physical slider. I also down here I have I didn't add it to the drawing. I have the physical rotator next to here. And the physical rotator obviously also want to have a returnable logic. So you could put it on the physics mover. And then again, you can think, okay, if I decide to make a kinematic mover, then, you know, I would also have to move it from here. So I decided actually to just put it all the way up on the iMobile actor interface, and then add the base event implementation on the BP mover, and also add the we call it the variables or the settings to control it on the BP mover. So it's not the best way I could think of doing it, but it's what I could come up with within a short time. And I think I mentioned this a few times. Whenever I figure out that I did something wrong, I will just go back and refactor things. That's the way I work. I like to just get things done, and once I can see it's working, the concept is working as it should, I take one day out and refactor things, maybe 1 or 2 times, until I'm happy with the new structure. And yeah, it's kind of an iterative process for me. And if you know exactly what you're doing, you might be able to skip all this stuff here, obviously. So physical slider, let's do a blueprint child of this and call this physical return slider. Physical return slider, yeah, that's what I called it also. Great. So let's pop this open and get rid of the middle one here. We don't need that. And we want to start by opening up the BP mover, because that's where I'm going to add some of the base stuff I mentioned. And we also want to open up the iMobile actor. So we have a bunch of stuff open now. Yeah, again, the most clean, and oh fuck it. Let's do it. I didn't do this originally, but let's fucking do it. I'm gonna do another interface here, blueprint interface like this and call it ReturnAble. I really regret adding actor to these, so I'm just going to remove them later on. But for now, mover, thinking if a mover is a bad word, but let's just stick with it for now. Mover begin return begin, and we're going to add a new one called mover return end. So the mover return begin is going to fire whenever the button hits the state where it should return, and once it returned, it should fire this return end event. So that's super simple. So on the BP mover, we're going to add this event interface here, ReturnAble actor. So now when you look at it, you can see this is something you can pick up. You have some pickup logic, you have some movable logic, and here you also have some returnable logic. So it's just by reading off the interface here, you can see things from that, what it can basically do, which is nice. So we're gonna do the same thing as we've done several times before. We're gonna implement these on something. So I'm gonna add this one called on return. What did I call them? Hang on a sec. On return. I'm not typing. On begin. Return begin. Set this. Oops, I didn't compile this. This. And add the other one. Okay, there we go. So let's switch to the settings that we want to have for this. And again, it may not be the best way to put it because, yeah, it is going to be here. So, yeah, well, I'm going to put the variables here. In the settings section here. So let me just check quickly what settings I had for that. Well, yeah, one variable that I'm gonna definitely add is a boolean to say, do we want to have something that can return or not at all? So I'm gonna call this should return. So true if this mover should return. Not, whatever. So let's add this in the section under settings and do a pipe. Call this return and make it public. So that was one. Okay, you probably can't see what I'm doing at this point here. Can I collapse some of this stuff here? Let me just check if you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, well, this is visible. Okay, so I'm adding stuff here, and I could collapse this and this also. So we do have a little bit more space to play with. Okay, so let's add another one. We should have a way of figuring out what, once our value is at what, we want to return. Because you could technically just say, okay, whenever it hits the maximum, it should return. But, you know, well, you know what? I'm not going to do that because it will. That's the cool thing about doing these videos, because once I've done my POC and start to record and have to explain things, I suddenly realize, okay, I don't really need this. So I don't really need a return at value. It's just going to be the maximum for now. We're just going to simplify things. So I'm going to wing this a little bit. So we're not going to do that. We're going to do, however, a return to value. Because let's say that if it's a rotator thing and it starts at, it has a 0 value all the way over here, and it has a 100 or 90 degrees over here, and it starts at 45 degrees. So it's going to have a mid value or a return to value of 45 degrees. So just returning to the minimum or to 0 is not always going to be valid. So we're going to have a return to value. If the value to return to, well, I can definitely come up with better tooltips for this. Let me check if I did something. Return to. Okay, so I actually wrote something here which is kind of cool, I think. Is only valid if should return is true. This is pretty cool, I think. Adding this when this is valid, making sense or not. So we're gonna keep that. The next thing is a means of controlling how fast it should return, and if it should just hit the maximum and then start to return immediately. So we have two other values we want to control here or make configurable. By the way, make that public. So let's do return delay first. Return delay, yeah. Time in seconds before returning, only valid if should return is true. There we go. Make that public as well. And let's add another one. Return speed. Make it public and put it in the settings return. How fast to return. There we go. So now we have a bunch of variables that we can control things with. So that is available for us actually for everything all the way up, all the children. So we're going to save that. So let's switch to the returnable slider here, which we're going to use to begin with. So now we should have the settings available. Return should return and all that stuff. And we should start to build the logic here. So to begin with, we made a on return begin like this, and that raises the event return begin return mover return begin and end. So now we can actually just use that on the physical return slider. So we can just type in mover return begin, or was it end? Wait a sec. No, wait, we're not going to do that. We are going to do something else. We're going to say, when do we want to actually fire this? Because the physical return slider is going to have that implementation of saying, when do we want to return? And we're going to do that on mover at max. Oops, damn it. the event mover at max. So this event is being fired all the way down here on min. Is being fired. Well, it's being fired, delegated here from minimum, maximum event, blah blah blah. Here, or rather here. So we can say when this event is being fired, we can do something. So we want to make a check first here. Branch. Branch and say should we return or not at all. So make that check first here. You don't want to do anything of this if the should return flag is not set. Since this is, by the way, we should set some default values for this child blueprint as well, so we have some things to start out with. It should always return, since it's a physical return slider. It should return to default, let's say just 0, that's going to be okay. It should maybe have a default delay of, oh, let's just keep it 0 for now. Return speed, we definitely want to set this to something fairly high. Let's just say 100. I don't know, we can change that later on if we want to. But then what we just need to do here is to say, okay, we need to introduce this little pause here that we configure, the return delay. So let's drag that out and do a delay here. So this node here, delay, performs a latent action with a delay, and you can see this little hourglass here. That means that the completed node here is only being executed once this delay has passed. So it's just going to stay in here. I don't. The rest of this stuff is going to continue on tick and stuff, but this is going to continue waiting and not complete until the delay has reached. You know what I mean, right? So once we hit this, or this delay has passed, we're going to fire our on mover begin, return begin. So this is what says we should start to return now. Yeah, there's going to be a little problem, but we are going to get back to that eventually. So once it starts to return, we should actually also have a way of tracking if something is returning or not. So we should also in the internal section add a variable called isReturning. I think I called it. Let me just check. IsReturning. Yes, I called it isReturning. Add a variable. The reason we need this is because we don't want to do anything down here on event tick if it's not returning. So we do actually want to make a branch here checking both conditions, if it should return and if it is returning at all. Then we should do something here. Let's see. Did I put this in the wrong spot? I might have done that. Is returning, we should definitely not put this on, because, yeah, well, bad place to put it. We're going to backtrack a little bit and go back to the BP mover. So in here, we're going to add it. It's returning boolean true if we are returning only being set if should is true. There we go. And we're going to dump that in the internal section like here. So this is a variable that we're going to keep track of. And obviously, once you begin return, this can be set to true here. So set this to true. And once we return end, oh man, this annoys me. Just gonna have to, why does it, no, on return end. Sorry. OCD alert. There we go. Return end. Okay, and we will set is returning to be false. Read is returning false. Okay, so back into the physical return slider. We should do this check on event tick here. Should we return at all? And are we returning or not? If both of these two things are true, then we should execute our awesome return logic. And luckily we do have most of the stuff ready at hand already. That was kind of a double something. The physical slider, if we just switch to that for a moment, does have a set slider location. It also has a new function _0_0. Which I think is a, I don't know, some kind of artifact. I don't know, I don't need that. I hope. Probably not. We'll figure it out in a moment. Anyway, the set slider location does actually sort all this stuff out. It just needs the value, so we can use that in the physical return slider. So once we come in here, we can just say set slider location, and it just needs a value. So we're almost done here. We just need to figure out what value to set. And we're going to use an VRInterp to constant, and just smoothly interp, and we're just going to fill out a few things here. So get world delta, and the interp speed is going to be the return speed, and we're going to, the target is going to be our return to value, and the current value is going to be our value. So that was really cool. We have everything we need to implement this. So all we have left now is to say when should we fire off the return finished, return end event. And we are going to do that by, oh, by the way, we should also, because we are now changing the value, so we should update, make sure to update that value. As you can see here, we are changing the location, and it may be updated. I can't remember how I did it, but I think the value is getting updated on the physical slider somewhere. Yeah, it gets updated from the position. So, well, I may not need it, but it will probably be one frame behind in that case. So I'm just going to set it here anyway. And then I'm going to say if this is nearly, you can't always be certain that it's going to hit exactly spot on because of weird small rounding errors. So I'm going to say, is this nearly equal to? If this is nearly equal to the return to value, like this, and just use a 0.1, which is fairly high, I realize, but you can always play around with this, see if 0.01 is going to be okay. We can totally do this for now, and then we're gonna set call the event branch first here, and they call that on return end, like that. So the return end is going to set the value that is returning to false, and that means that once it's being called, this is going to be false. So we can be absolutely sure that it's not going to end up firing several times because of this. But we do want to react to this if it's fairly close to the end return to value. If you're worried about rounding errors once it returns to that, what you might want to do is to update it again set the slider location exactly to be the return to value, and that way it's going to be updated to be exactly that value. But you know, this part is kind of optional, I would say. So you could add in this part here, that was already there, and set return to, what is it? Where is it? Return to value here, like that, and update that. Okay, so in this case you definitely don't need this one, but yeah, who cares? This should work, I think. We probably want to save everything and probably make, for now, this, because we're just testing things out, we're gonna make, if I drag this into the level, we're gonna get a huge box. So I'm just gonna switch this out with a handle. This is just a little bit more convenient to work with. There we go. And I'm gonna find a place for it so I don't have to move around too much. Here seems to be okay. And maybe raise it up a little bit so I don't have to put my hand through the table. And let's see, what direction does it move? Okay, so it moves that way. I should probably also swing it up like this and maybe move it forward a little bit, something like that. A physical, oh, that's another thing. A physical return slider should also have a limit, I would say. So let's say it should have, let's just give it 10 as a default. That's maybe too much, since this is going to be a button or something. A physical return slider. I'm just going to give it 10. It just needs to have some kind of default. We can, once we start to make a button, it's gonna we're gonna set some other defaults anyway. So now it has 10 as the default, and this one didn't update. Why did it not update? Come on, save. Okay, no why. And it should has limit to be true. Also going to set that inside here to be the default. So sorry about the jumping back and forth. Let's just see. Okay. So now you can see it moves the wrong way. It should just spin it around then. Oh wait. The green is the beginning and the red. Okay, so it is facing the right way. Let's give it a test. And you know, I don't have the ability to push it yet. That's something we need to add, probably in the next video. So I have to grab it right now. Ah, fuck, it is moving the wrong way. And it's totally not returning. Why is it not returning? What the fuck? What did I forget? This is a physical slider, god damn it. It was one of these I wanted to drag in. Ugh. Oh, sorry about that. I just have to do it again. Was it? Oh, and I spent all that time placing it. Let's see if this works. Oh, it does not work. That's really disappointing. Return slider. Why does not work? Did I forget something? Return delay is 0, and it's going to fire the mover return, which is being set. Mover return begin. A setting is returning to true. Oh, did I say should return? It is return to value 0. Return delay 100. Oh, I guess it's time for a little debugging. Probably want to make sure that this is getting hit at all to begin with. If I just grab my headset and my hand, pull it down. So now we should be at the max and we don't get anything. So probably we don't get this event here, mover at max. Which is kind of odd. Should return. Let's set it here first. Just make sure that. Yeah. Okay. So it pauses here and stops. Okay. So let's set it the breakpoint on the other side. So this part here is kind of boring. Okay. So we get this stuff here, and it's gonna say mover return begin. Mover return begin. Alright, return is returning. Mover return begin inside here. Oh, I am calling the wrong thing. Oh my god. It should call not mover return begin, it should call on mover on return begin. God damn it. Sorry about that. That was really shitty. The same deal here. I mix things up. That's the reason why I want to use the on. So every time I do this, but yeah, you know, I forgot. So this should work now. Here's the hint, and now we get a breakpoint here. Set slider turn resume. Let's try it again. Yeah. So that's a little. You can see it's making a little bob up and down. That's the thing I was talking about at some point. I think that's a little issue. Once we hit the max, we technically can still we are still as it is the way I'm doing it right now. I'm still dragging the button. So the quick fix just to get something looking a little bit more acceptable is just to call drop at this point here. It's totally not something I would keep, but it's something I need to figure out a solution for. So now you can see now once I hit the max, it's dropping it. So now I'm not holding on to it anymore, although my hand is still a fist. But you can see now it's moving down and returning just fine. So that was a lot of stuff to go through just to get this kind of basic functionality going. I still believe, even though I'm starting to doubt it, but I still believe that this is worth it in the end once I start to build things like, for example, a keyboard or interactable, you know, buttons, stuff that can do things. It's going to start to pay off that I did this basic stuff here to begin with. So, yeah. Sorry about the length of the video. It became a little bit longer than I anticipated. I'm going to continue in the next and build the pushing logic, which is going to be a little bit tricky and it's going to be a lot of stuff. So it's also going to be probably one of the longer videos because there's a lot of stuff to cover. So you're just going to have to deal with it if you want to follow along, of course. So totally up to you. Anyway, thank you for watching and see you in the next. Bye.